morning. Apparently, the government wants to get more people back to work, but the CBI is saying, well, there's not going to be very many jobs for them. So how exactly are they going to do it? James, very good morning to you.
Morning, mate.
So, it's not that clear from what Liz Kendall was saying yesterday on various different TV shows exactly how the government is going to get people back to work and which of the people they want to get back to work, really.
No, I agree, and we have to wait and see what plans they come out with next week. I think the issue is that there's a lot of talk on the front pages about taking benefits off young people, benefit sanctions and so on, but the majority of young people that are not in education or employment are actually what we call economically inactive.
Yes.
They're not actually looking for work and they're not going into the job centre, and you can't sanction them. And so the big question is going to be what we do about that much larger group that the government is talking about, and they've got some positive noises coming out. But they've also done things like delay a scheme called Universal Support, which is meant to target that group, which the Centre for Social Justice has campaigned for and the last government announced. The new government's delayed that. So we're going to need to see a lot more bold action on that sort of space if the government's going to tackle economic inactivity among young.
And it's not really the first time, is it? I mean, we get every single government that comes in talks about rewiring the benefits system and changing the way that it works and making it more possible for people to get back to work. But it never really happens. And what we've now got is an ever larger number of people who either won't work or who don't want to work or who don't want to work very much or who need benefits to top up what they're making while they work. You know, there's a whole mixture of different people there, aren't there?
There are, yeah. And, you know, when the government says, you know, there'll be consequences for people that don't do the things that are required of them, well, that is already the case, and that has been the case for a long time. Benefit sanctions are already in place, and actually the government, if anything, previously has been talking about saying that they think the previous government was, you know, a bit too tough and they focused too much on policing the benefit system. So obviously there should be consequences for people if they aren't doing the things required of them. The problem is that, as I say, an increasing proportion of the people on benefits are not actually having any requirements of them because they're on sickness benefits.
Right.
So,
and that seems to be the growth area, if you want to call it that. You know, the people who are on sickness benefits for all sorts of different kinds of reasons. Many of them suffering from anxiety. Many of them saying their mental health is worse, and that's a big problem because you don't know really how they don't know how to sort that, do they?
They don't. I think there's sort of two strands to that. One is the way that our kind of employment support systems work, joining up much more with health systems. You know, we at the CSJ have talked a lot about devolving more things to local areas so that local areas can join up their local health systems and their employment support. But it's also about how the welfare system itself works and the fact that we now have nearly 3 million people that are on sickness benefits and don't have any requirements at all. They get more money, but they're effectively kind of written off.
Yes, and they've a lot of the cases they've self-diagnosed themselves and written themselves off.
Yeah, and I think there's lots of questions about exactly how the assessment systems work, and you know, and the way that fit notes work as well, and whether having doctors, you know, having a very short conversation with people. 94% of fit notes at the moment, the doctor just signs people off as not fit for work. So,
well, I speak to a GP regularly up in Doncaster, and he said to me quite openly, I didn't even ask him the question, that he's quite happy to sign people off work without even seeing them. He gets an email from someone, he doesn't even bother investigating, he just signs them off.
Yeah, so you know, the previous government, I was working in the previous government, and we were doing some good stuff on you know, moving fit notes away from the GP and trialling different approaches so that people, you know, were getting signposted to treatment and support rather than just, you know, getting on that journey towards long-term sickness benefits. But I think also for people that are already on those benefits, the problem is that people then have a bit of an incentive to sort of, you know, people worry that if they do try a job, then they might then get reassessed and have their benefits taken off them. So another thing we've said is you should have an into-work guarantee where, you know, you can try a job, and if it doesn't work out, you know that you can go back onto the benefits you were on before, so that people feel they've got the confidence to go back into work.
Yes, indeed. And as long as they continue to get job offers and get job situations they can go and do, that's going to help them. James, great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. James Heywood from the Centre for Social Justice. The number of working-age people on health-related benefits has risen by 1 million since 2019, right, to 4.2 million. According to analysis by an Institute for Fiscal Studies. That's growing even faster than the petition to have an election. which is growing pretty fast. It's 1,841,000. We're going to tell you in a minute about the BBC. Here's one from Mark, who says, Mike, I just looked at the Biased Broadcasting Company's news website, and there's nothing about the petition. Even though they have previously reported on petitions that have at least 1 million less signatories. Funny that. Yeah, well, not only that, they did report on a woman who sent a petition to Downing Street for tighter regulation on fireworks, which was about 1 million. But they also did one on more than 2,000 people who signed a petition to protect a rural post office at risk of closure in Cumbria. That was a good enough story for them. 2,000 people for that. 1.84 million. Not good enough. So you won't read about it at the BBC. Stick to Talk, the only place to get the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.